the best and wisest man whom I have ever known. This is how John Watson describes Sherlock Holmes in the last line of The Final Problem, which Conan Doyle intended to be the last story to culminate his series before being pressured into resurrecting the character a decade later. With 52 films dating back to the year 1900 and over 50 known stage productions, Sherlock Holmes and John Watson are two of the most portrayed characters in the history of stage and screen, with many of these adaptations focusing on the friendship between these two characters. So naturally, I felt inclined to contribute to this already crowded canon in the only way I knew how, by writing a musical. What started as my graduate thesis at Rollins College, My Dear Watson, is now a musical that focuses on the friendship between Holmes and Watson from its tentative beginnings to its heartbreaking end. It's now an award-winning musical that has been produced 6 times in 5 cities, including New York and Chicago, and has been seen by 3,000 people. Thank you. Including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's great-great-grandnephew. But the question you may ask yourself is, why? Why do we continue to bring these characters to life over and over again? And why are they one of the most beloved duos in the history of literature? I can answer that question for myself. I, like Sherlock Holmes, find comfort in facts and logic, and I struggle to understand and comprehend emotions, both others and my own as well. In fact, I have several friends who call me Spock, which I love because not only am I a huge Star Trek fan, but also Gene Roddenberry patterned Spock loosely after Sherlock Holmes, being a Sherlock Holmes fan himself. And in Star Trek canon, Spock is considered a great direct descendant of Sherlock Holmes, on his mother's side, of course. But I digress. I have a feeling that my interest in these stories is not the norm, though. Most people, and rightly so, identify with Watson. He's the narrator. He's the everyman. He's the common man, the normal to Holmes' eccentricity. In fact, it's even a common analysis of this friendship that it is one-sided or even abusive. Even in successful adaptations such as the BBC series Sherlock or the Grenada series starring Jeremy Brett, Sherlock Holmes is often portrayed as being this arrogant and cruel character compared to Watson's doting sidekick. But that can't really be all it is it? Why would we follow this friendship over and over again if that's all it was? We don't follow this friendship and continue to resurrect it over and over again because it's abusive. We follow this friendship because it forces us to define friendship as being something other than and something more than an emotional bond between two like-minded individuals. In fact, we even follow a whole host of odd couple duos that have been directly or indirectly inspired by Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. House and Wilson from House, that's an obvious one. Jane and Lisbon from The Mentalist. Mulder and Scully from The X-Files. Gus and Sean from Psych. Monk and Sharona from Monk. We follow these characters over and over again. And we know that Sherlock Holmes has a heart. We know it more than he does. We see it when he feels remorse for something hurtful he said to Watson, not knowing that his candor can be offensive. We see it when he protects Watson from dangerous situations. We see it when he plays his violin. Watson notes over and over again how expressively he plays the instrument. How could he express a passion that he doesn't have? And we see it in his seeking Watson's company. We know that he doesn't need him to solve cases. He's brilliant enough on his own. What he needs is a friend. And we know that Watson knows that Holmes has a heart. He notes evidence of it in nearly every single story. One of the most famous and most eloquent examples of this is in a story called The Adventure of the Three Garridebs, where Holmes loses his calm, cold exterior when Watson is shot, and Holmes shows concern for his friend. And Watson says, "It was worth a wound. It was worth many wounds to know the depth of loyalty and love that lay behind that cold mask. For a moment I saw a great heart as well as a great brain, and my years of humble-minded service culminated in that moment of revelation." I was so inspired by this text that I used it as the text for one of the songs in My Dear Watson, and it is continually an audience favorite, as audiences have tears in their eyes as they see this unique moment of tenderness. The fictional universe is filled with lovers and fighters as heroes. But what about those of us who can't relate to such heroes? We need heroes like Sherlock Holmes, because people like me who struggle to comprehend emotion, we need to know that someone like him can love and be loved in return, because it means the same for us. And after 13 years of marriage and after 23 years of loving these stories, it's taught me just that. If we're going to embrace the diversity of people, we need to embrace the diversity of their relationships and the way that they understand and experience love and friendship. The people you see in this picture are not my friends because they understand my emotions and I understand theirs. So we need to understand that we experience this in different ways, and Sherlock Holmes and John Watson are a stunning example of just that. Thank you very much.